For what purpose does the gentleman from Tennessee seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion to recommit at the desk.
Is the gentleman opposed to the bill?
Mr. Speaker, I am in its current form.
The gentleman qualifies. Clerk will report the motion.
Mr. Green of Tennessee moves to recommit the bill, H.R. 6395, to the Committee on Armed Services with instructions to report the same back to the House forthwith with the following amendment. At the end of Title 17, add the following new subtitle. Subtitle: Defend COVID Research from Hackers Act. Section, short title. This subtitle may be cited as the Defend COVID Research from Hackers Act. Section, authorization of imposition of sanctions on certain foreign persons. A, in general, the President is authorized to impose sanctions described in subsection B with respect to any foreign person determined by the President.
The clerk will suspend. For what purpose does the gentleman from Washington seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I reserve a point of order against the motion.
Point of order is reserved. Clerk will read.
A, in general, the President is authorized to impose sanctions described in subsection B with respect to any foreign person determined by the President, 1, to be responsible for or complicit in or to have engaged in, directly or indirectly, activities including cyber-enabled activities originating from or directed by foreign persons that are reasonably likely to result in or have materially contributed to a significant threat to the national security, foreign policy, public health, or economic health or financial stability of the United States, and that have the purpose or effect of A, harming or otherwise significantly compromising the provision of services by a computer or network of computers that support one or more entities in a critical infrastructure sector.
Mr. Speaker,
Clerk will suspend.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading.
Is there objection? Without objection, the reading is dispensed with. Gentleman from Tennessee is recognized for 5 minutes in support of his motion.
Mr. Speaker, Operation Warp Speed is an unprecedented public-private partnership to accelerate the development, manufacturing, and distribution of COVID-19 vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics.
Gentleman will suspend. Members. Gentleman from Tennessee may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the goals of this program is to have 300 million doses of safe and effective vaccine by January 2021. Next week, Moderna plans to start phase 3. 2 other companies are right behind, expecting to begin phase 3 within weeks. The speed which the process has taken is truly warp speed. This could not occur without the private sector and the federal government working hand in hand on this Herculean effort. Companies are taking enormous financial risks to conduct research, develop vaccine candidates, and create more manufacturing capacity at record speed. The federal government has poured billions more into the vaccine effort, yet countries like China are trying to steal America's work in developing a COVID vaccine for their benefit. As confirmed by intelligence agencies, DHS and FBI, the Chinese government, the Russian government, and other hackers are trying to steal intellectual property and America's health data related to vaccine treatments, testing from COVID-19 researchers. In fact, DOJ charged Chinese hackers just 3 hours ago. Since the start of this crisis, the Chinese Communist Party has done everything they can to prevent the world from responding and recovering from the pandemic. Not only did they keep COVID-19 a secret for their own citizens, but they hid it from the world for months after the first outbreak. When word got out about the virus, the Chinese Communist Party lied about human-to-human transmission. Then they arrested doctors, journalists, and other whistleblowers who dared to warn their fellow Chinese citizens of the dangers of the virus. Many of these whistleblowers are still missing and presumed dead. Researchers at Columbia University, not necessarily a bastion of conservatism, I might add, those scientists at Columbia University said had China notified the world just 1 week sooner, 61% of American deaths could have been prevented. Think about that. 61% of 143,000 is 87,000 plus Americans who would not be dead had China spoken up just 1 week sooner. Indicative of their past mercantilist actions, China hoarded PPE in the early days of the virus. Despite dominating global PPE manufacturing, China hoarded the world's PPE. U.S. exports of PPE to China grew over 1,000% in January and February compared with the same period last year. In their time of need, we sent them PPE. Italy even donated PPE to China. What did China do? Well, they sold them the very PPE Italy had donated to them and refused to ship PPE to the United States, decrying regulatory violations to keep PPE away from us during our peak need. But it still wasn't enough. Now the Chinese Communist Party is hacking researchers who are trying to find a cure for the very worldwide pandemic that they tried to cover up. Make no mistake, if the Chinese Communist Party steals the vaccine, they will leverage it for their own self-interested political and economic ends, which really boils down to one thing and one thing only. The communists want power. They want totalitarian power. We must show the Chinese Communist Party that there are consequences for these actions which pose a clear threat to the safety of our fellow Americans. If Chinese companies or individuals hack COVID-19 researchers, they should be punished with tough sanctions. This MTR enables sanctions against individuals responsible for significant malicious, cyber-enabled activities that endanger the public health of Americans. It also requires a report on whether cyber hacking related specifically to COVID-19 qualifies for such sanctions. Now, to those who say this should go through regular order in committee, I say we cannot wait. Every day, people are dying from COVID-19. We need a vaccine now. We cannot afford for China to steal American work and then leverage it against the United States and the world. We cannot spare the weeks, maybe even months, a standalone bill would take. Americans are dying. China is hacking, and we in Congress must act. Researchers need to be protected now. We have an opportunity. It's time for a bipartisan effort. Think of the message that we will send the Chinese Communist Party. Hacking American intellectual property will not be tolerated, especially when it jeopardizes the lives of Americans. If we can't agree on punishing those who hack the heroes fighting for a cure for COVID, I don't know what we can agree on. I urge my colleagues to support this MTR. With that, I yield. Thank you.